Hey up, it's Steve from the Old Yorkshire Geek, and welcome to the next episode of my series. I've forgotten again. I can never remember it. My top 5 favourite films from each year since I was born. Or whatever. I got it right last time, didn't I? And now I've forgotten what I said, so I should have checked, shouldn't I? Never mind. That title. My top 5 favourite films for 1981, and there's a clue in the background. So we've got my top 5 favourite films, and this week, or this time, should I say, I've got 10 honourable mentions. So that's 1981. What a tough year to pick 5 films, but I've done it, and with much, debate inside my stupid head about which films should be in the top 5 and which should be in the honourable mentions, and I'm still a bit, torn over some of them, but that's the way it is. As usual, these are just my top 5 favourite films, not necessarily the best films of this year of 1981. They are my favourite films. So there we go. It's not a list. It is a list, but it's not a countdown. So the number 1 isn't the best, number 5 isn't the worst, or vice versa, or whatever. They're just it's just a list of 5 films. They're not in any order. So there we go. But before we start, don't forget, I keep forgetting to say this, don't I? Don't forget, like and subscribe, share the videos, drop a comment, hit the notification bell if you're subscribed already, and all that stuff. Go and check my channel, and I've got lots of videos and live streams and playlists and all sorts of stuff for you to explore. There's also a shop where you can get that Old Yorkshire Geek merch, if you want to see my stupid cartoon face splattered on things. I haven't got anything to hand. I've got some t-shirts, and you can just make out. Hang on, where is it? Which way am I? That way. Oh, I'm rubbish at this. That's my mug there on my shelf. So there. That's the closest I can get to some merch. Actually, you can just make out. Where are we? Over there. There's some t-shirts on the back of that chair. Anyway, so there we go. And also, hit the super thanks button as well. Throw me some money. I'll prostitute myself on YouTube. Can I say that? I just did. Right, so let's get on with this list, shall we? Let's get on with this list. This top 5, my top 5 favourite films of 1981. And first up, as I said, this is not the best. It's not the first. It's not the worst. It's just there. It's just, I decided in this order. I don't know why, I just did it. So first up is Excalibur, the John Boorman directed and produced and co-written Arthurian epic. A lot of people say, it's not exactly historically accurate, but then Arthur is a mythological figure. Nobody really knows if he actually existed. But anyway, it's an amazing film. It's an amazing film starring Nigel Terry as Arthur, Helen Mirren, the gorgeous Helen Mirren, the peak Helen Mirren in this film, as Morgana, Nicole Williamson as Merlin, Nicholas Clay as Sir Lancelot, Sherry Lungi as Guinevere, and many, many more. Also stars Gabriel Byrne. I think it was filmed in Ireland, so we get a lot of Irish actors in this film. So we have like Gabriel Byrne, Liam Neeson. We also see an early Patrick Stewart playing, I can't remember his name, but never mind. As a knight, and it's an amazing film. A great. It's based on the 15th century. I can't really remember. I have to check. Yes, 15th century. Sort of like romance. I don't know, what did they call them back then? They didn't have novels in the 15th century, did they? I don't think. But they had tomes. Le Morte d'Arthur by Thomas Mallory. It's kind of loosely based on that. It's got some great music, from Wagner's Ring and all that. And it tells the story of King Arthur from his birth, his conception, all the way up to his passing at the last battle. I don't know what it was called actually. I don't know what his last battle were called, but where he takes on Mordred, his illegitimate son, with Morgana. Takes on Mordred's army, and it's the classic tale. So there we go. So that's Excalibur. An unmissable film. I'd say it's up there. Super special film. Right, so moving on. Next up, this is the big film of this year, really, to be completely honest. It's that one. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, as they try and push it as these days. Sorry, George, you're an idiot, but never mind. Raiders of the Lost Ark, based on a story by George Lucas, directed by Steven Spielberg, screenplay by Lawrence Kasdan, obviously starring Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, Karen Allen as Marion Ravenwood. I had to think then. Also stars Paul Freeman as Belak, Ronald Lacey as Tut, the bad guy, or one of them, John Rhys Davies as Salah, and Denham Elliott as oh god, me and bloody names. I can't remember what his bloody called. Hang on, I'll have to check. Marcus Brody, of course. Denham Elliott as Marcus Brody, and many more. And Pat Roach appears twice in this film. Once as a Sherpa, another time as the huge German guy that Indy fights. Everybody's seen Raiders, haven't they? Who meets his demise in an aeroplane propeller. It's astonishingly violent, is this film. I don't know how Steven Spielberg gets away with it. In all of his films, back in the day, they used to get like PG ratings, and there were super violent films like Jaws and this and others. I don't know how he gets away with it, but he did. But it's one of the greatest films ever made. It's up there, top 5 easily, in my opinion. Based on, George Lucas had this idea. Like with Star Wars, he based Star Wars essentially on Flash Gordon. The Flash Gordon serials. This one is kind of based on the Republic serials, from the 40s and 50s, High Adventure, stuff like that. Obviously, Indiana Jones, the globe-trotting archaeologist, Lara Croft were based on Indiana Jones. Going around, collecting artifacts for the museum. It belongs in a museum, culturally appropriating these artifacts. And usually up against Nazis in these films, but not exclusively. That's it. It's a great film, and this one is looking for the Ark of the Covenant, the Lost Ark. We all know it. It's a great film with an amazing climax. It's brilliant. That's all I can say. With an amazing score from John Williams. That's it. As I said, one of the greatest films ever made. An amazing movie. Right, moving on. Next up, we've got Superman 2. This is not the Donner cut. This is the original, the theatrical cut of Superman 2. Directed by, I'm doing a lot of that today, aren't I? Directed by Richard Lester, although most of the film, some say like 80% of the film, was directed by Richard Donner, because Superman, the movie, and Superman 2 were filmed back to back. They were supposed to be, well, they are. Essentially, Superman Part 1 and Superman Part 2, like in Dune Part 1 and Part 2. It was essentially like that. But Richard Donner had a falling out with the producers and essentially got himself fired. So they brought in Richard Lester, who previously to this were most famous for doing like the Beatles movies. And he came in and filmed a few extra scenes. And made, and cobbled together a good film. I like the extra scenes in this film. I think they work really well, to be completely honest. And I've got to admit, this could be a hot take, but I prefer the Richard Lester theatrical cut than I do the Richard Donner cut. But that could be heresy to some people. Anyway, a great film. The score's not by John Williams, although you hear the John Williams theme. The music by Ken Thorne, and let's say it's John Williams-esque because he's essentially using John Williams themes, but it still doesn't have that same punch. But it's still a great score. Again, starring Gene Hackman, Christopher Reeve. Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, Christopher Reeve as Clark Kent / Superman / Kal-El, Ned Beatty as Otis, Jackie Cooper as Perry White, Sarah Douglas as Ursa, Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, Jack O'Halloran as Non, Valerie Perrine as Miss Tessmacher, Susanna York as I forgot her name now. Kal-El's mother, Superman's mother. I can't remember her name now. Who else? And Terence Stamp. Terence Stamp as General Zod in a movie-stealing role as General Zod. It's a cool film. Not as good as Superman the movie, but it's not far off, and it is a lot of fun. And I do like the scene. And one of the scenes that Richard Lester filmed were like a scene at the Eiffel Tower, close to the beginning of the film. In the original version, in the Richard Donner cut, what happened at the end of the first film, when Superman were getting rid of the nuclear missiles that Lex Luthor had fired off. Spoilers. It launched one into space, and off it went, and it exploded. And that was the nuclear explosion that freed Ursa and General Zod from the Phantom Zone. But in this one, they've changed it. Terrorists have got a nuclear bomb in the Eiffel Tower, and Superman has to go and deal with that, which he does with much flair, and a really good scene, in my opinion, with a great model of the Eiffel Tower, and Superman going up and taking the elevator that's got the bomb in it up into space, and that explodes, and that's what releases the bad guys for this film. And I do like it. I do like that scene. And anyway, essentially what this film is about is Superman losing his powers. He gives up his powers to be with Lois Lane, and she lets him because she's a woman and women just think of themselves. But I'm kidding. And he gives up his powers, so he's not Superman anymore. He's just a regular guy. Then instantly gets himself beaten up by a bully. And but then he learns that these bad guys have come and essentially taken over the world. So he's got to go and get his powers back somehow. So anyway, so there we go. It's a super duper film about Superman. Close to Superman the movie. I do prefer Superman the movie because that's an origin story. This is then Superman's next adventure sort of thing. But it is really, really good. It is really, really good. So that's Superman 2. Right, moving on. The next two films are both horror films, and they're both werewolf films, and I couldn't decide which ones to include, so I've included them both. First up, American Werewolf in London. Classic werewolf film from John Landis, starring David Norton, Jenny Agutter, Griffin Dunn, John Woodvine, and a cast of great English actors, such as I've got his name now, Brian Glover. We all know this story. American backpackers in Yorkshire, in the north of England, where I'm from. Probably why I've picked this. Get attacked by a werewolf because werewolves are rife in North Yorkshire. Apparently, I'm not from North Yorkshire. I'm from Wild West Yorkshire. Maybe they were in West Yorkshire. I don't know, but it wasn't actually filmed in Yorkshire. It was filmed in Wales. But anyway, they get attacked by a werewolf. One of them gets killed. Jack gets killed, and David gets bitten before the werewolf is shot and killed. And so why does he change then? Why does he become a werewolf? Because the werewolf's line has been broken because they've killed the werewolf that bit him. So he should be all right, shouldn't he? Isn't that how it works? I don't know, but anyway. Obviously not. So he eventually becomes a werewolf. Let's say it's a great comedy horror, more so than the next film, which we'll get into in a minute. But this one is a comedy horror because it's from John Landis, who was great at comedy and all that stuff. And it's also a great, it's a great comedy film. Some hilarious, funny moments in it. It's also a great horror film with some shocks and some gruesomeness. It is quite gruesome in places. And some scenes were actually cut for being too gruesome, such as the homeless guys getting attacked by the werewolf. They cut that scene out. Just shows them, them before the attack. And it'd be nice if that scene, because apparently I think they shot that scene. It'd be nice if it, were put back in. But anyway, never mind. So there we go. American Werewolf in London, a great film. Everybody knows the shower scene with Jenny Agutter. And lots of great songs in it, all about the moon, Bad Moon Rising, Blue Moon, etc. A great film, and it won Oscars. Rick Baker did the werewolf effects, and it won. I think it won the very first special makeup effects Oscar, I do believe. I think it was the first one. Yes, the inaugural Academy Award for Best Makeup. Yes, it won for that. Because previously, I think the original Planet of the Apes won a special Oscar for its makeup effects because they didn't have an award for it, so it got like a special Oscar or something like that. Anyway, so there we go. So that's American Werewolf in London. Next up is a film that I actually like more than American Werewolf in London. It's another werewolf film from the same year. You know what it is. It's The Howling, directed by Joe Dante, written by John Sayles, based on the novel. So it's got the same title and it's got werewolves in it. That's all it's got. That's in common, really, with the novel. A great novel, one of my favourite books I read as a teenager, by Gary Brandner. I actually read, I know there's probably more of them now, I don't know, but there were 3 novels that I read. There were The Howling, Howling 2, well, I think it was called Return of the Howling. I can't remember what the second one was called. And Howling 3, and it had the subtitle and I forgot. But they were all interesting. The first Howling, they were destroyed by fire. The second Howling, it was silver. And the third Howling, the werewolves were destroyed by another werewolf. Spoilers, but anyway. Anywho, The Howling, a great film. This one, the makeup effects were originally going to be done by Rick Baker, but he went off to do American Werewolf in London and left his protege in charge of The Howling, Rob Bottin. And I think the werewolf effects in The Howling are better than the ones in American Werewolf in London. But that won the Oscars, this didn't. Go figure. Anyway, right, so it stars Dee Wallace, or Dee Wallace Stone as she would become known, Christopher Stone. They met on this film and became married. Patrick McNee, Dennis Dugan, Belinda Belasky in a memorable role, Kevin McCarthy, John Carradine, Slim Pickens and Elizabeth Brooks. Not Belinda Belasky, I'm thinking of Elizabeth Brooks in a memorable role. They're all memorable. And it's about Dee Wallace plays Karen White, who's a TV reporter, an anchor woman who's investigating a serial murderer in Los Angeles. And I can't remember what they call him, but anyway, I know his name, but they don't know his name at the time. It's called the Slasher or something like that. I can't remember. It's investigating that. He's been in contact with her and wants to meet her in this this shady part of town. Anyway, action ensues. The serial killer gets killed. She's in shock by what she's seen. So she's sent to this. A doctor sends her to the colony to recuperate. So she goes there with her husband, Bill, and it turns out they're all werewolves there. So There we go. And much fun is had. It's an amazing film. And this one was touted as a horror comedy, and I've no idea why. Because it's got amusing parts in it, but An American Werewolf in London is more of a horror comedy than The Howling. And I think The Howling is just a straight up horror film. But I think The Howling is a better film than American Werewolf in London. But that's another hot take. But I do love The Howling. It is great. It's great with great effects. Except for the last werewolf that we see, which is spoilers, which is when Karen turns into a werewolf at the end. And she doesn't look like a werewolf. She looks like a bloody, I don't know, a terrier, a Scottish terrier or something like that. But anyway, so there we go. Right, so that's it. That's my top 5 films for 1981. Right, moving on. Moving on to the 10 honourable mentions. Again, these are not in any order, so we'll just fly through these, and there we go. So first up, Scanners by David Cronenberg. A great sci-fi horror supernatural film about basically psychic people being created by this drug. Some might say it's an allegory for like thalidomide and stuff like that, birth control drugs and stuff. So people can essentially make other people's heads explode with the power of their mind, and it's an interesting film. Not the best made film in the world, although it does have some nice gory effects. But the main character, don't ask me his name, I've not got it up in front of me, so never mind. Not Michael Ironside, he's fine in the film. The main character is bloody awful. How the hell did he get a starring role in this film? I have no idea, because he can't act. I can act better than him, and I'm not an actor. Oh, terrible. But the film itself is great. Next up, My Bloody Valentine, the original version. I like both. The original version, this one from 1981, and the remake starring Jensen Ackles. But this one is the original one. An early slasher film from Bob Clark. I think it was Bob Clark that did this, or it might be. No, that was Black Christmas, wasn't it? Or Bob Clark. This one might have been as well. I can't remember. Anyway, whatever. About a miner, not a kid, a mine, someone who works in a mine, basically going around on Valentine's Day for some reason, killing people, leaving their hearts in chocolate boxes and stuff like that. It's fun. Next up, Omen 3, The Final Conflict, or The Final Conflict Omen 3, depending on how you want to look at it. The culmination of the original Omen trilogy sees Sam Neill as the grown-up Damien Thorne wanting to become president eventually, and fully realising his evilness. He's proper evil in this. And obviously the first film, he was just a kid. In the second, a little kid, toddler. In the second film, he was a teenager, and just coming to understand that he was the Antichrist and he was going to be evil. He didn't start, like he wasn't evil. He seemed a decent kid at first, but then we learn that he's got he finds out he's got these powers, and then in the third one, he's just evil. He's just evil. And it's, it's not as good as the first two, in my opinion. It has a couple of nice set pieces, but I think it's a step down from the others. And recently, I saw the film The First Omen, which is supposed to be set. It's a prequel to the original film, and it's a decent film. I enjoyed watching it. I'm not sure I'll watch it again, like I've watched these many times. But it's interesting, but it leaves a lot of open questions, such as, hang on, wasn't Damien's mother a jackal? Jackals are mentioned in the film, but Damien's mother's not a jackal in the film. So are they setting up, like an alternate, a reboot or whatever? I don't know, because we do see a photo of Gregory Peck. I don't know. But anyway, that's Omen 3. Right, I've spent too much time on that one. Next up, a James Bond film. A James Bond film that's not in my top 5. It's for your eyes only, so that's why. Not one of the best James Bond films. It's still fun, but not one of the best ones. With Roger Moore returning as 007. About essentially what they call it, like an Enigma thing. They don't call it that, but it's some electronic device that the Soviets want to get their hands on. One of those, and it's all right. It's okay. I think it's got Topol in this one, and I think it's this one that's got Topol in it. So anyway, there we go. Next up, another one that should have been in my could have been in my top 5. I sometimes think I should have swapped out maybe Excalibur for this one. Yeah, maybe I should. I don't know. But anyway, it's Clash of the Titans, the final film from Ray Harryhausen. What can I say? It's got some of his best work, although he did have help in this film. It's famous as Ray Harryhausen for basically working alone, more or less, when he's doing his stop motion. But he did have some help in this film from the likes of Jim Danforth and some others. Jim Danforth did, I think, most of the Pegasus animations. That's me doing a flying horse. But anyway, Clash of the Titans, a great film about Perseus saving his love Andromeda from the Kraken, although the Kraken's from Norse mythology. They play fast and loose with myth in in Ray Harryhausen films, but it's a cracking film. Don't bother with the remake with Sam Worthington or its sequel. I suppose they're alright, they're fun, but they're not a patch on the Ray Harryhausen one. Next up, Escape from New York, which we covered on Magnificent Mondays quite recently. Great film from John Carpenter. Great action sci-fi adventure with some good effects from essentially the team that worked on Battle Beyond the Stars, because it was Roger Corman's special effects team that did the work on this, and it's better than the film deserves, to be honest. It's not the greatest story ever. The president's plane is hijacked by terrorists and it crashes in New York, in Manhattan, which has become a top security prison, the most lucrative real estate in the world, just walled off and turned into a prison. Go figure. But anyways, that's Escape from New York with Snake Plissken, Kurt Russell. It's a lot of fun. Next up, Wolfen, a film that we did in Friday Night Appointment with Fear quite a while ago. I forgot his bloody name. Based on the book by Whitley Strieber, Jack Finney. That's it. That's what I'm trying to think. Stars Jack Finney and Gregory Hines. A lot of people say it's a werewolf film. It's not. It's not a werewolf film. It's about like intelligent, actual wolves who are kind of like Native American First People, whatever you want to call them. Gods or spirits or whatever, something like that. They're like, an earth energy manifestation, something like that. But it's a cool film. It is a cool film, a really well made, classy horror film. So anyway, there we go. Speaking of classy horror films, I'm not sure you could class this one as classy, because it's a grungy, indie horror film which started a phenomenon. It's The Evil Dead. Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead, starring Bruce Campbell. I say it's not glossy and slick like his later films. This one is the film he made, on a shoestring budget out in the woods. It's Stephen King described it as the most, I forgot, was it gruesomely horrific or whatever film of the century or something like that. What can I say? Teens or young adults go to a cabin in the woods and get possessed by Kandarian demons. And hilarity ensues. There we go. Another horror film next. Halloween 2, the sequel to Halloween. Starring Jamie Lee Curtis again and Lance Guest. And Pamela Susan Shoop as the nurse. Anyway, Michael Myers going around is after Laurie Strode again. That's about it, really. Oh, and Donald Pleasance returns as Loomis, Dr. Loomis, and it's like they wanted to end it with this one because there's a big explosion and fire and everything, but they kind of ended it there. But and then the next film, Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, they were going to go off in another direction and make it like an anthology series, not connected to Michael Myers, but nobody liked it. But I do. I love Halloween 3. And then in Halloween 4, they brought back Michael Myers. Anyway, even though he'd been burned to death. Same with Loomis. They brought him back as well. He had a little bit of a burn on his face. But anyway. And finally, my last honourable mention is Ghost Story. Speaking of classy horrors, this is another one, another classy horror film, starring some great actors like John Houseman and the dancing fella, Fred Astaire, although he doesn't do much dancing in this, and many others, and Alice Krieger as the titular ghost, essentially. Spoilers. It's a great, creepy, spooky supernatural thriller about a group of old men who, when they were young men, they all fell in love with the same woman, Alice Krieger, and an accident occurs and she dies, and rather than report it to the authorities, because it was an accident, they basically just shove a body in a car and push it into the lake. So her spirit comes back to wreak vengeance upon them as old men. And it is cool, and it's a beautifully shot film as well. It's very artistic. So there we go. That's the end. That's my top 5 films from 1981, and my 10 honourable mentions. It is 10, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, 10. I did count them right. And my 10 honourable mentions. So we'll go through the list one more time. First up, we had Excalibur, which was followed hot on its heels by Raiders of the Lost Ark. Then we had Superman 2, the theatrical version, and then 2 werewolf films, an American Werewolf in London, and then The Howling, which I like better. And then the honourable mentions are Scanners, My Bloody Valentine, Omen 3, The Final Conflict, For Your Eyes Only, Clash of the Titans, Escape from New York, Wolfen, The Evil Dead, Halloween 2, and finally Ghost Story. So there we go. That's my top 5 favourite films from 1981 and 10 honourable mentions. We'll leave it there. So, what's 1982 got in store for us? We've got a film about a boxing person. You might know who that is. A film about someone's wrath, or wrath, I would pronounce it. I can't really say. A sword and sorcery film. And then a couple of horrors, and then in the honourable mentions, how many have I got for 1982? Should be quite a few for those as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 again. Another 10 honourable mentions. We've got a comic book movie. We've got a Steven Spielberg film. We've got a film that we've covered on Magnificent Mondays. We've got a Disney sci-fi. We've got a horror. We've got another sword and sorcery film. Then we've got another, not a boxing film, but another film from the same actor that's in the boxing film. Then we've got the sequel, but not really, to one of the films that we've just seen. We've got, I'm not getting it, but never mind. And a couple of others as well, and a couple of horror-y type ones. So there we go. Right, so we'll leave it there. So I hope you enjoyed that list. So thanks for watching, and wherever you are, look after each other, and until next time, I'll see you there.